guys, a lot of you have been asking me to do some story time videos, so I've kind of been compiling a list of stories that I would like to tell. I don't really feel like I'm that interesting of a person, but then I got the idea to do a whole story time series based on things that I may have lied to my family about when I was younger, but I can honestly tell the truth now, and it's okay because I don't have to worry about getting in trouble anymore. And really, like, that's one of my favorite parts of being an adult. You know, like when you're a kid or a teenager, whatever, and you do something that you're not supposed to do and you like lie to cover it up, it's kind of nice to know that when you get older, it doesn't really matter anymore. You can tell your parents, like, yeah, I was at that party, yeah, I don't know. Or like, yeah, this is what really happened, and then it's funny, and it's funny for everybody. At my own expense, I will be doing one of those today. This is one of my all-time favorite stories from when I was a teenager, and I've not ever told my family what actually happened. Let's see how that goes. And Mom, specifically, Mom, I'm sorry. The summer of my sophomore year of high school, my best friend came to visit from Michigan. She used to come visit me every summer and we would hang out for like a couple of weeks, and it was always a lot of fun. This summer, I had just gotten my license and I was trying to get my first car, but in order to do that, I had to get a job first. My best friend was also dating a guy that I was in high school with long distance, so when she came to visit me that summer, she got to see him too. And you know, we were like 16, 17. I really wanted to get my first car, obviously. I didn't want to drive my mom's car around, and I wanted to be able to drive myself to and from high school. So I had an interview at a seafood restaurant outside of Savannah. I was gonna be a hostess, and on my way there, I dropped my best friend off at her boyfriend's house. I knew what that meant. I knew what was gonna happen. I'm a supportive best friend, so I'm like, yeah, this is fine. And, you know, told my parents, yeah, she's just gonna come with me and like, you know, wait in the car and be my moral support for this first ever interview that I'm having. But I dropped her off at her boyfriend's house and I was so happy for her. I'm like, yay, you're gonna be a woman. And we're like, we're 16, 17, but I'm like, yay, you're gonna be a woman. Good for you. Can I make this video without you biting my boob, please? Go out. So I dropped her off at her boyfriend's house. I went to my interview and I got the job, and I was super happy. I'm pretty sure I only got the job because the owner of the restaurant was my neighbor, and my parents probably talked to him. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna get my first car. This is great. I want to go tell her, but also she's busy. I texted her and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go back to the neighborhood, but I'll give you your time. And you know, you just let me know when you're ready to be picked up. And it just so happened that one of my other best friends lived in the same neighborhood. So I hit her up and I'm like, hey, let's hang out. But on my way to her house, I accidentally knocked my employee handbook off of the seat along with my first ever uniform shirt. I don't know why I didn't just think, oh, I can pick this up when I get to my friend's house. Like, this isn't a big deal. It can sit on the floor for a minute. But in my teenage brain, I was like, oh my god, it's gonna get ruined, and this is my first job ever, and these items are very important for some reason. Instead of like stopping the car or just waiting, I leaned over to pick the stuff up off the floor, and I wasn't going very fast. I mean, I was in a neighborhood, so I was doing like, I don't know, maybe 8. But I leaned over to pick the stuff up off of the floor, and there's a loud crash, and I didn't know what happened, and I started to panic, and I look over and I had hit a brick mailbox and I knocked the mirror off of my mom's car. This was a really nice mirror. My mom had a nice car. It had like all the electronic moving parts in it. It was an expensive mirror. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my god, like, now what choice do I have? I have to go home. I have to tell my mom what's happened, but also I have to interrupt my best friend and her first ever fun time with her boyfriend. I went and I picked up my friend who was expecting me, and I'm like, oh my god, what do I do? Like, I just broke my mom's car. We have to go pick up my other friend. Like, we gotta interrupt it. I don't know what to do. I'm freaking out, whatever. I pick up my friend Sam, and we go back to my best friend who is busy, obviously, and I'm calling her and texting her frantically, and duh, she's not answering because she's busy. My friend Sam and I get out of the car and we're banging on the windows and the doors, and we're like, oh my god, it's an emergency, you have to come out. And Sam, I love her so much, has never met my best friend before, and she's banging on the windows going, I know what you're doing in there. Eventually, they answered the door and I explained what happened. I was like, we have to go right now. Like, this is terrible. I'm so sorry. And oh yeah, hi, by the way, to your boyfriend. Sorry for interrupting your fun time, but we have to go. I got back home. I've got both of my friends in tow with me. My mom was still working at the hospital at the time and was on a night shift, so she was asleep. And my dad was at work and I didn't know what to do, so I got a paint stir and stuck it on the underside of the mirror and took a bunch of duct tape and rolled it up around the paint stir to kind of stabilize it. And then I had to go in and tell my mom what happened, and she's like half asleep, and I was like, Mom, I'm so sorry. I was driving and then this mailbox just came out of nowhere. It was in the middle of the road basically, and it's got brick around it, and I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. It was just there, and oh no, I had an accident, boo-hoo kind of thing. And you know, she was, like I said, half asleep, so she's just kind of like, okay, yeah, go away, like, I'll deal with this later. She ended up taking my best friend around that neighborhood during my first shift at work a couple days later, because I had to pretend like she was in the car with me when it happened, because I couldn't say, yeah, by the way, I dropped her off at her boyfriend's house, because then we would all be in trouble. My mom is driving my best friend around this neighborhood. She had no idea what actually happened or where in the neighborhood it happened or anything. And my mom is like, oh, was it this mailbox? Was it this mailbox? Which mailbox was it? And, you know, girl code, like, we vouched for each other. So they actually did find the mailbox that it was without me ever having to tell anybody, because it was pretty close to the road in my defense. And also, that mailbox didn't get damaged whatsoever because it had a giant layer of brick around it. But my mom was like, oh, it must have been that one, right? And my best friend was like, yeah, sure, yeah, it was that one. My mom was like taking pictures of it to show my dad because my dad was really mad at me. I ended up having to spend my first like 5 paychecks paying for a new mirror for my mom's car. That was what really happened. So Mom, I'm sorry. That's also how I ruined my best friend losing her virginity. I'm sorry to everyone involved in this story, but I had to tell it. I'm happy that I'm finally getting it out there. I've got a few others sort of like that I would like to tell in this series, but I hope that you guys enjoyed my stupid story. I love y'all, and I'll see you next time for story time and a confessional, who knows.